When people talk about the best horror games of the Xbox 360 generation, most often brought to the table are Dead Space, Resident Evil 4's port, or maybe even Condemned Criminal Origins. But how often is World at War discussed? While sure, it's not officially labeled as a horror game, it has all the makings of one, and it traumatized the crap out of me as a kid. The horror elements of this COD game start before you even reach the main menu, with an unsettling loading animation followed by one of the most eerie main menus I have ever seen on any game of the 360 era, and I'd say it's more creepy than a lot of actual horror games I've played, with Killing Floor being one of the few other games I can think of off the top of my head, with a more unsettling vibe based off just the main menu. While it doesn't bother me so much as an adult, this scared the absolute snot out of me as a kid, and I'd always try to get off the main menu as soon as possible to just get it over with. And while the vocals, instruments, and noises are unsettling enough, knowing the lyrics only adds to this feeling, as it translates to good soldier, die with me. Although some translations say brave soldier, you get the idea. That is just something else in a very unnerving manner. But it only continues from here with a very gritty and dark campaign about the Second World War, which is a horror story by itself, and an additional zombies mode. And while I'm used to it now, it used to scare the crap out of me and has all the makings of a horror shooter. I'll start things off with the campaign before getting into the undead, as that is the way the game was originally supposed to be played before the zombies mode took off. I think the first thing to discuss about the campaign is the real life footage used for loading screens, which depict the true horrors of the war and adds little bits of info into the actual events the game is based around, which again is a horror story by itself. But getting into the game, it consists of two very distinct campaigns, one in Japan, where you play as Americans, and the other in Europe, where you play as Soviets, with the game starting off on the American side, and things are very creepy from the start, with the gruesomely iconic intro of watching Private Pyle having his face burned with a cigarette during an interrogation, and then proceeding to have his throat slit by a Japanese soldier. And it took me several times of watching this scene before I noticed Pyle being beaten with the bamboo rod at the very beginning. I can't really think of many better ways a dark World War II game could have started. And the Russian campaign starts in a similar fashion, as your character, Dmitri, hides among dead Soviet soldiers and watches crows feast on their corpses while German soldiers execute other survivors. And we later see on multiple occasions in the game where the opposite thing happens, where Soviet soldiers would execute German prisoners. And if what I learned in history is correct, this is pretty much true, in that Germany and the USSR didn't treat each other's prisoners well, although I heard Germany overall wasn't super bad to American POWs beyond treating them like prisoners. But this, combined with Reznov's and Markov's, I think that's how you say it, repeated cries of stuff like, kill them all and show no mercy, really goes to show the savagery of the war. And the simple fact that you're regularly provided with Molotovs on the Russian campaign or given a flamethrower on the American side really do add an extra horror factor, as in my opinion, fire weapons are some of the most cruel weapons to exist on a battlefield, pretty much cooking someone alive. And while I'm aware other games have these, it did seem more frequent in World at War than a lot of other FPSs that I've played. A couple other things that really add to the horror effects are just the overall darkness of this game. It's not dark like Silent Hill Homecoming, where it's just hard to see at times, but everything kind of just has a dark filter over it, which really creeped me out as a kid. Or things like the corpses of deceased Germans hanging from lampposts towards the end of the game, or Japanese bonsai charges, which add in a bit of anxiety. But I'd say the campaign pales in comparison to the horror of what lies after its completion. You thought they were dead. You were wrong. This is the description provided for Nacht Der Untoten, the first ever Call of Duty Zombies map, originally unlocked after beating the campaign, and it scared the absolute crap out of me as a kid, and traumatized my little 8-year-old brain for a couple weeks after seeing my neighbor play it for the first time. Now, as a seasoned veteran, it doesn't really bother me that much, but the Zombies mode, especially the first two maps, is a horror game mode. That's all there is to it. I mean, just listen to the very first thing you hear when you spawn into Nacht. Hearing this right after the creepy intro, that alone is very unnerving for a first-time player. But it gets better. I think the lack of an explanation, other than NAZI zombies, rip modern censorship, helped a lot with the horror effects. It's like, where am I? What am I doing here? What am I supposed to do? And the overall silence of the zombies at the beginning really adds to the horror. They're not running yet, just slowly lumbering towards you, and you only have weak weapons to stop them at the start. Not to mention the help door, which also scared me as a kid. Just seeing help scribbled on there added in a sense of desperation, like there was someone here before you and they disappeared. Back to the zombies themselves. They're very creepy looking with their pale skin and glowing eyes, and their various moans and groans and later howls and hisses are very creepy, even to this day as I've gotten more used to it. And above all else, I think, is how the Zeds keep getting stronger, and Onderese growing in number, and the fact that you cannot win really nails in a unique horror and desperation effect. The zombies always win. All you can do is postpone your death, which is followed by evil laughter and unnerving music. Moving on to the second zombies map, Verruckt, where most of the horror effects are really ramped up. I'd say Nacht more of just has a really unnerving atmosphere, while Verruckt has a almost flawless horror element, which is held back by the newly added voice lines.
Go to hell! Screw you, maggot face!
In Nacht, your character's silence added to the grimness of the map. In Verruckt, the voice lines don't really fit the horror vibe the devs were building, as you have this filth-ridden asylum of horrors mixed in with a super confident and fearless marine. I mean, there is just so much going on in Verruckt. The infamous Verruckt sprinters and the way zombies try to flank you, which adds in a lot of anxiety. You also have the dentist chair, the morgue, the butcher area, which is just, what the crap happened here? I don't want to know. The fact that all of your weapons eventually will turn to pea shooters, and the overall uneasiness of Verruckt is a near horror masterpiece, again ruined by the voice lines. I think it would have been really cool to see a full-fledged horror spin-off game with all the horror vibes of Verruckt. Maybe it would have been like if Zombie met Left 4 Dead. That would have been sick. Now, being honest, the horror vibes do kind of wear off with Shino Numa and Doris. I mean, sure, Peter's corpse and the introduction of dogs in Shino added some horror, but Doris isn't really that scary to me, other than some light horror elements here and there. But man, those first two maps held zero punches when going full terror mode. Before I end my video, I want to add that I think the gore and dismemberments of this game added a lot to the horror factors. And sure, a lot of games have dismemberments, but World at Wars is just different in its own grim way. In conclusion, I think the very dark and grim campaign mixed with zombies mode does make World at War a horror game. Maybe not to the extent of a Silent Hill game or something by Vincent Lade, but I'd call it a horror game, as I've seen many other people do, and it's undoubtedly the darkest World War II game I myself have ever played, with Enemy Front being the only other game I've played that even comes close to it, not counting maybe Zombie Army Trilogy. Well, I hope someone enjoyed my video. This was just one I really wanted to make as a longtime COD player, especially since World at War on the DS was the first COD I ever owned, and I have a lot of good memories playing the PS3 version with my friend in elementary school, and later getting my own copy on Xbox in middle school. If you were to ask me for suggestions for a similar game, for the campaign, I'd probably say the aforementioned Enemy Front or Medal of Honor Airborne. If you want a more lighthearted game. Note that one's only rated T. And for zombies, I'd suggest the original Killing Floor or Sker Ritual. Well, that's all from me for today, folks. I hope someone enjoyed my video. For anybody new to my channel, I mostly play, review, and discuss zombie and horror games, so feel free to check out some of my other content if that maybe sounds interesting. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Always remember that Jesus loves you all very much. Peace.